Harrison Price for Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. Presentation of Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. That's simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. I'm Matt. This is Blake. Mike's in there hitting switches, conducting things. Thanks for joining us on this glorious Wednesday in the city of Vancouver.
I think summer begins today.
I hope you're right.
Weather's improving.
I've been wearing long sleeves at home. That's just not right.
It was cold yesterday after.
Very cold.
Yeah.
Do you want the Canucks' 3rd overall pick to play in the NHL next season? Yes or no? It's our daily poll question today. You can vote at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. Look, talked about it yesterday. A lot of voices that are involved with a first-round pick, or particularly a high first-round pick. You would have to think that this owner, who has been a slave to immediate gratification and revenue, wants whomever is selected 3rd overall in the lineup next year, a shiny new toy to sell the public in the early stages of this rebuild. We know the Vancouver Canucks have gone down this path before. It wasn't immediate for Jake Virtanen and Jared McCann, but they were both teenagers that got rushed into the lineup, and it did not help the Vancouver Canucks. It did not help their development. Created entitlement, particularly with Virtanen.
Now, there is some context here. The Canucks could very well have an NHL rookie on opening night, not the 3rd overall pick, and that being Brendan Cootes, who, of course, made the team out of camp last year.
Correct.
And does that scratch enough of an itch for you, the fan, for the owner, that, we're still going to have the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed first-round draft pick, just last year's, not this year's? More context, many of the candidates are college commitments.
Already.
They can get out of it. They can sign a deal and just say, I'm not coming. Carson Karls has already intimated he'd be open to doing that. He's scheduled to go to North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Reed to Michigan State. Caleb Malhotra to Boston University.
Yeah.
Ivar Stenberg's ready, willing, and able. Gavin McKenna likely the same.
Ivar Stenberg would really be the only one here, lest Gavin McKenna be selected 1st or 2nd overall, and I think Gavin McKenna will be selected 1st or 2nd overall. Is there an off chance that Keaton Verhoff, after 1 year at North Dakota, would jump?
I don't think the team would want him to. I don't think the team would want him to. I think they would say, no, you're in a good spot. Just do one more of those and we'll talk.
Could a total stunner, Viggo Bjork, be an exception there?
I don't think he's NHL ready myself. I think you'd want him to take a step.
Okay.
I think Cootes is a big thing to remember. Like you get to unwrap a new toy still.
Yep.
Even though he's got a little sneak peek, but
I voted yes because from a fascination point of view, but only if the guy is ready, and for me that means only Ivar Stenberg. Of course, I would love Ivar Stenberg at number 3 overall.
I'm saying no. I think the likelihood of Cootes and Lekramaki full time and all that sort of stuff is all possible. I think you're gonna get the itch scratched of a young player in the lineup. I think you're gonna get that. I don't think you need to force the issue and put all of your hopes and dreams onto Ivar Stenberg, but anybody. Let everybody develop.
And JFresh Hockey has been busy this morning producing player cards for draft prospects. Let's bring up the Caleb Malhotra card right now, Mike. So there it is, the graphic on the screen, those of you on visual platforms. Projected chance of becoming a star in the NHL, 13%. That ranks 9th amongst this draft pool. Projected chance of becoming an NHLer, very high at 83%. But
still
that still
10th.
only
Yeah.
ranks 10th. And a star is defined as top 20% of WAR, wins above replacement per 82 amongst forwards, 15% amongst defensemen. Becoming an NHLer is playing 200 NHL games. Jay Fresh writes, Malhotra is our highest rated center, but still comes in near the end of our top 10. If you want to be optimistic here, his late riser status and bloodlines are encouraging. Seems like a high floor two-way center who showed more upside as the season went along.
So he's saying what everybody else sees,
Right?
But it's just his ceiling is just a smidge lower, I think, than what people think.
He's saying what most scouts are saying, and that is, I think there's a second line center in there.
Yeah,
a valuable two-way utility second line center.
Yeah.
Then there's Chase Reed, the big defenseman from Sault Ste. Marie. Let's bring his card up, Mike. Thank you. Projected chance of becoming an NHL star, 56%, and ranks 3rd.
Wow.
Projected chance of becoming an NHLer, 98%, also ranks 3rd. In the write-up, Jay Fresh writes, we have Reed ranked 3rd and 1st amongst defensemen. It is a meaningful drop-off between him and Stenberg, but his toolkit and status as a decently sized right-handed defenseman definitely play in his favor. People often compare him to Zach Werenski. And Werenski is actually on that very thin list of young defensemen to play in the National Hockey, or to play in the NC2As and be a producer. Also on that narrow list is Keaton Verhoff, ex of the Victoria Royals, now at the University of North Dakota. And remember, Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects, our draft insider, has been hinting he thinks the Canucks quite like Verhoff, and he seems to think that Verhoff got an inclination there at the Combine last week of Vancouver Canucks interest. Those who like Verhoff like him a lot, including Frank Saravelli, NHL insider, who went on Calgary radio yesterday. And, of course, the Flames are looking at Verhoff, think he's right there in their sights with the 6th overall pick. And Saravelli said, I truly believe that at worst he's the second best player in this draft. He's Alex Pietrangelo 2.0, maybe with even more of an edge. He's the best right-shot defenseman to come out of Western Canada in 25 years. Now, Frank's getting ratioed by many who say, did he forget about Cale Makar, who, of course, came out of the Alberta Junior League? That said, Frank may draw a distinction because while Makar was very much viewed as a very good prospect, I mean, there was no talk about Makar going 1st overall.
No.
People loved the toolkit. They wondered about the level of competition in the AJHL, and rightfully so. It was only after Cale Makar got to university, had an incredible freshman season, where people went, okay, this guy is the real McCoy, and it's going to be a big impact on the Colorado Avalanche blue line. And, of course, he has been all of that, and not only a Norris winner multiple, but a Stanley Cup winner as well. It bears reminding, at this point last year and heading into this past hockey season, there wasn't much discussion about Ivar Stenberg or Caleb Malhotra being a 1st or 2nd overall pick in this draft. And that's because people thought it a 2-horse race between Gavin McKenna and Keaton Verhoff.
Mm-hmm.
And Verhoff, because of the tools, right? A big right-shot defenseman who was putting up points already in the CHL. So when Frank says what he says, I can understand it from the point of view of, and we've talked about it, Verhoff struggled some this season as a 17, 18-year-old playing NCAA hockey against much older competition. If he's playing in the CHL again this year, he's putting up gigantic point totals.
Probably. Well, we don't know, but probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
And having a better season and furthering his case, at least in the public view, of vying for first overall. And of course, I'm not sure in a regular draft he would be getting that sort of conversation around him, but as we've talked about, Gavin McKenna is an imperfect first overall as a smaller perimeter playmaking winger. And of course, the same applies to Gavin McKenna as well, that he went out and challenged himself at Penn State in the NCAAs as opposed to running it back at Medicine Hat and putting up huge point totals. You do agree he would have put up huge point totals in Medicine Hat this year if he had been back there with
I
with
think
the
that one
Raptors.
is safe. That one is safe given how he performed with Penn State. The other thing about Verhoff is, again, his age. He is a young 17, still not even 18 as we speak.
Yeah.
And to be at that size already, like you can make the argument that maybe some of his and it wasn't a bad season. It was an average season by objective metrics, but when you consider his age and the fact that he is likely still growing, was some of it still just getting used to being able to operate such a big frame in a high skill environment. I mean, next year is going to be intriguing. If you had that portal into next year, boy, is it going to be an informative season on the development of Keaton Verhoff.
Yeah. 6'4", 215 pounds at the combine. That's measured. That's true.
That's big. For again, he's not 18.
Not even 18.
Oh. Mm-hmm. An absolute horse.
So I'm yes, you're no.
I'm no.
Mike Rogerson, break the tie.
Well, I definitely want them to play. I mean, I don't.
Where's your camera? Is your camera showing? We got you a camera.
He didn't do his hair. He didn't do his hair.
We want to see it.
I did. Yeah, I want them to play. I don't know if it's the best idea.
Got you. I think that's right. We're seeing some of that in the.
It's just not a need, right? Like, I think a guy like Gavin McKenna, rightfully as the first overall pick, but he does need, like, the Leafs can use Gavin McKenna with Austin Matthews. Like, I think people are legitimately intrigued.
For sure.
Can that add to the Leafs next season?
Yeah.
Canucks aren't in that
Well,
position.
yeah, exactly. The Leafs are trying to bounce back. The Canucks
Yeah.
are rebuilding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the Leafs pass and McKenna winds up in San Jose? I mean, we've played out the Ivar Stenberg with Macklin Celebrini, but holy jumping. McKenna and Macklin on the same line?
I mean, McKenna, Stenberg, McKenna, Celebrini, Stenberg, Celebrini you can make up pretty amazing combos with both. If the Sharks want to be very rich at the forward position, they have that in front of them.
I can't imagine they would pass on McKenna if the Leafs do. I think at that point you take McKenna and you sort your defense need by trading out a young forward.
Yeah.
Or whatever you have to do. Anyways, vote. Do you want the Canucks third overall pick playing in the NHL next season? Yes, no. Harrison Price, X, and YouTube. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. As the Canucks hire a beacon of character, integrity in the inoffensive, non-controversial Manny Malhotra, one province over, the Edmonton Oilers want to hire Mike Babcock?
Say what?
This is real? This isn't just a ruse? I'm not being duped by social media here? The blue check marks are confirming this? The former Wings, Leafs, and Canadian Olympic coach apparently charmed Oilers owner Daryl Cates, and GM Stan Bowman is looking for a bench boss who can get more out of his moribund supporting cast. And what could be the last chance to win a cup with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
It appears the barky, angry coach is having a resurgence here. Tortorella taking his team with that late hire by the Vegas Golden Knights. Peter Laviolette back with the Los Angeles Kings now, and Babcock's tires being kicked by Edmonton.
Well, I think it's more than tires kicked. I think they're looking for permission to hire him.
Mm-hmm.
Desperate times, and this sure looks like a desperate measure in Edmonton, as Babcock did not even coach a game in his last stop, fired by Columbus after a controversy involving asking players to look at their phones under the guise of getting to know them. Babcock said he only wanted players to share photos as a means of introduction. The players considered it a privacy violation and squawked. The NHL is moving ahead with an investigation on Mike Babcock and the events in Columbus, as per the National Hockey League Players Association request. The Oilers had reached out to the PA with regards to Babcock, and it's clear here that the union is doing its members' bidding in trying to keep this guy out of the league, or at the very least making him go through a full vetting. You'll remember that was not the case in Columbus. There was no repentance or apology or trying to make it right. It just was quietly shoved to the side, as per Gary and the NHL's.
Which is super interesting, Matt, that this going down this road, because the reporting seems to be that the core players of the Edmonton Oilers were consulted on this and gave it the okay. So, by extension, what I'm saying is Connor McDavid wants Mike Babcock as his head coach?
I'm not sure want is the correct word. Connor McDavid has signed off on Mike Babcock as his head coach.
But he's got the ability to want and demand whomever the hell he wants.
But hockey players don't often do that, right?
I think Connor McDavid, by virtue of that contract extension being as short as it is, has basically said,
I'm running the Oilers.
I'm running this team.
Well, of course, they hired his junior coach, and then they just fired him, and they do want to hire Bruce Cassidy, but the Vegas Golden Knights aren't giving him permission to interview with other teams, even though they fired him at the end of the season.
But it's just off for the PA now to know that several of their marquee members, and I'll count Draisaitl in this group too, they want a guy, and you're pretty much saying,
yeah,
we'd rather not.
Yeah, but marquee doesn't matter in the union's eyes, right? Like everyone's the same. So,
well,
it doesn't matter if it's coming from a scrub or if it's coming from McDavid. I mean, it may matter to Marty in terms of him playing the political game, but you know the way unions are supposed to be run is that you have your rank and file, and they are your rank and file, and they are.
Yeah, but there's no other union in the United States with members that make $17 million and members that make 1/17 of that. Usually the salaries in the union are a lot more squished together.
Hey, some of those big unions, the executive director might be making that. What was Jimmy Hoffa making?
Of the union.
Running the Teamsters. Yeah. More on this, Frank Saravelli reporting, if the Oilers elect to continue down the path with Babcock, sources say the NHLPA is in receipt of, quote, significant additional claims from their own investigation with players that were not publicly reported in 2023.
What does that even mean?
Those claims were presented to the NHL prior to his resignation.
And they probably were hoping that they never saw sunlight ever again, but now they may be forced to. So, do the Oilers even know what they're talking about here? Like in terms of being willing to invite Babcock back. Like, they may not know even the grisly details here.
I'm sure the Oilers will say we've done our due diligence because that's what officialdom says, even when they haven't done their due diligence and just, want the controversy to go away and stand by their choice.
They're inviting it here. This isn't their own guy that's done something wrong that they say they've done. Like, that's normally when you see what you're talking about. This isn't even their guy. Why go to bat for this guy?
Well, look, that the Oilers reached out to the PA and said, look, we'd like to request information with regards to Mike Babcock. That tells me there's someone in the organization who is skittish about this, or at the very least that Edmonton is going to genuinely go through a vetting process with Babcock. I mean, it sounds to me, Blake, from the outside looking in, that he absolutely charmed the owner, that the owner, much like the Aquilinis here when they hired Tortorella, wanted an ass kicker, were upset with their team and wanted an ass kicker to go in there and get them right. And that you've got people below the owner in the Oilers organization are saying, Daryl, are you sure about this? Like, it didn't end well in his last 2 stops. There's a whole lot of stuff under the surface, below the surface, in the undercurrent about this guy. And part of that involves one of our regular guests, and we'll have Frank Corrado on the show later, who turned into one of the poster children of how Mike Babcock mistreats underlings in his charge.
As you talked about, there's not much connective tissue between the Malhotra family and Mike Babcock. Very different ends of the personality spectrum, I think. But there is this. The Canucks' choice or conundrum at the number 3 pick in the draft. Yeah, you can choose Caleb Malhotra. But are there numerous other choices you could make that are less complicated and serve the bill? Yeah, there are. And it's the same with the Oilers. Like, yeah, you can go down this road with Babcock, or you can choose one of the tens of hundreds of other coaches.
Well, I think they're sore about not getting a chance to hire Cassidy. And I think that also feeds into the storyline that when it became clear Cassidy was not going to be a thing in Edmonton, they shifted gears, and that allowed for some wild card candidates, and Mike Babcock is certainly a wild card. Needless to say, there's a lot of griping, griping, and rationalizing in the Alberta capital on this news. Here's Mark Spector of Sportsnet, longtime Oilers beat writer, who writes, I'm okay with the coach Edmonton has hired. He's saying has hired, too.
Wow.
Not so sure about the person, however. My piece on the conflicted oil, despite desperate measures in desperate times. And the story is headlined, The Oilers have their man, but what kind of a man do they have? That's the big question that needs to be answered, with Babcock expected to be the team's next head coach.
Has hired a strong
I know.
Oof.
Jim Matheson, the Hall of Fame writer in Edmonton. Here's the thing with Babcock. His baggage is heavy, not carry-on. He has done some cringe to cruel stuff by accounts as a head coach and a human. He is imperfect, far from warm and fuzzy. He's not an easy coach, but Scotty Bowman wasn't either, he says, in Montreal. Scotty won, so has Babcock. If hired by Oilers, Babcock could make it uncomfortable for the stars and the supporting cast as a coach. Is that a bad thing? Maybe not. Yeah, okay. Scotty wasn't warm and fuzzy. Scotty also was a little bit of the absent-minded genius. He came off as aloof and distant a little bit because the mind was always working and he was kind of trapped in his own mind. It's a great documentary about Warren Buffett that paints the same picture of the Oracle of Omaha, where his kids are even in it saying, sometimes it was really, really hard to get Dad's attention because his headspace was always on, business and investing. And I think some of that proves true with Scotty. And it's funny because Scotty in retired life could not be warmer, more accommodating, more looking for human contact and conversation. I'd heard all these stories about Scotty Bowman, and then I met him, and then we started having him on the show a little bit, and I was like, it sounds nothing like the head coach that people portrayed in the 70s, winning all those cups in Montreal.
Now, he was very successful with the Red Wings. Of that, there is no doubt.
Babcock?
Yes.
Yeah.
But let's not just...
He was successful in Anaheim, too. I mean, he took it out of Anaheim. I mean, Jaguar was a huge part of the story, but that was not exactly a powerhouse Anaheim team that got to the Cup final under Babcock.
His record with the Anaheim Ducks in just 2 seasons, right? Just 2 seasons? 69 wins, 62 losses. Had a great playoff run.
Yeah.
That there is no doubt, but did not win a lot of games with the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. And that's what they were at the time, by the way.
But also
with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That was a team that was in ascension and wound up going to and winning a cup. At the time, Anaheim was, kind of a B market.
But he got fired because they were a losing team in his second season, 29-35.
Well, I think he got fired in part because of the personality too, right? you sure he was fired? I thought he just made the move.
Did he make the move? Well, he took a year off though. He didn't coach for a year. Okay. But his record with the Leafs 173, 133.
Yeah,
like a winning coach, but like we're not talking about Scotty Bowman here. Like those two stops were not Scotty Bowman like. And I think you can make the argument the Detroit Red Wings were probably going to be the Detroit Red Wings. I don't know about win a cup, but the Detroit Red Wings were going to win a lot of games with that roster, no matter who was behind the bench.
right.
And as we'll hear from Frankie Corrado, he's a coach. He can coach.
Babcock was out of contract and declined an offer to stay in Anaheim because the Red Wings job was available. So he basically traded on up from Anaheim, I think, probably he felt because.
Oh, sorry, he didn't miss a year. The lockout.
That's right.
Canceled.
That's right. The lockout, and at the time, the Red Wings were the best in class in the NHL. So understandably so. Here's Jason Gregor, who's one of the naysayers in Edmonton. It is odd to read how many think Babcock is great because he will hold players accountable. Thinking other coaches don't do this is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Yippee, he holds players accountable, but he hasn't won a playoff round since 2013.
Exactly.
I take wins over, quote, holds players accountable. And I get it. Like, the case for Babcock here in 2026 is pretty threadbare. It was a little light when Columbus hired him 3 years ago. It was not threadbare. It was not light when the Leafs hired him. When the Leafs hired him, this is one of the great hockey coaches the world over. Tons of success in Detroit, in Anaheim before that, with the Canadian Olympic team. Who could forget Sochi, a defensive masterclass on the big ice from Babcock and the Canadian staff. Turned Rick Nash into a penalty killer.
And, I do wonder, too, if going forward, he won a cup, we want him to. It's only happened with 3 different coaches in the NHL. None in the modern era except Scotty Bowman. Should it not be a canceling factor now? Oh, no, that guy's won a cup. We can't hire him. No one's ever done that. It's lightning in a bottle. You do it once, that'll be your one time.
Mm-hmm.
Like chasing Mike Babcock because he won a cup.
I know.
It doesn't happen.
Well, of course, Scotty won with 3 teams.
Yeah.
But we will give the Oilers this. If Babcock is in fact hired, he'll continue a phallic trend and complete the full cock ring when it comes to head coaching surnames.
So the full what now?
Look at the list of surnames here, Blake. You had Ken Hitch, Cock, Dave, Tip, It,
Just the
Jay, Wood, Croft, Chris, Knob, Block, and now Mike Babcock. This is why I can't quit Twitter.
The NHL, hockey as a general rule, is full of these double entendres. Sometimes I do find, all sport in general. I mean,
it is quite a list, though.
It is.
Yeah, you could have that many head coaches with.
Like why not Alain Vigneault? Like you can't do anything with that.
Well, Todd McClellan is not on that list. To be fair.
They skipped. Yeah.
Pat Quinn not on that list.
Oh, he was before though.
Was he before
Wasn't
Hitch?
he before?
Okay.
Yeah. Have to look that up.
Yeah. What's up with Yellow Dog?
Well, that's a tough turn. I feel bad now, almost trying to find any connective tissue there, so I will not.
There's connective tissue.
If it remains. Yellow Dog.
Need connect.
It's a hard transition.
Yeah, hard transition. You need connective tissue for any and all appendages.
Well,
you're right.
I'm
Quinn.
just trying to
Quinn
get
was
out
before.
Just trying to get out of here right now, please.
Yeah. Todd Nelson and Dallas Aikens Oh, wait. No. It's in succession, Blake.
It's
Hitchcock,
that is in succession.
Tippett, Woodcroft, Knobloch, and maybe Babcock. Yeah. All in succession.
Dallas is kind of a stripper's name, so it might sort of be brought in there. Never know. Yellow Dog Brewing's Plated IPA on sale for the month of June.
What does Kruger mean in German? I feel like we should investigate.
These are the 4-pack tall cans. Look for it on sale at your private and government liquor store. The Play Dead IPA. It's a banging IPA.
I'm just looking for any head coach's first name, Rod. And coming up empty.
Langway never...
coming up empty.
Yeah.
Got a couple lows
Shooting
in
blanks there?
Yeah, that's right. Got a couple lows in there.
It's too easy. Mm-hmm. We got to get this show out of the gutter.
Muckler. I mean, it's got to be something you can do with Muckler. Well, it wasn't the banger of Game 3
Glenn
because
Souther? What? No, Sather. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the banger of Game 3 because really what could measure up to Game 3? Another terrific hockey game last night in the Stanley Cup Final. 4 first-period goals, a would-be buzzer beater at the 20-minute mark, a 2-goal comeback, and a 1-goal game down to the last minute. Vegas, Carolina, we are entertained. That question has been asked and answered. And the best news now, with this 5-3 Carolina victory in Game 4, we're getting at least 6 games in this Cup Final, now tied to apiece. And look, Blake and I have talked. We're heading towards all-time classic territory here. Now, in order to be all-time classic Stanley Cup Final, at the bare minimum, you need 6 games, but you really need 7 games. And I'm convinced right now we're going 7 games here, Blake.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I mean, with there's been very little to separate these teams through 4.
Well, I'm glad that
the goaltending remains horrific, which has been awesome as a viewer to watch.
Carolina might have played their best total game last night. I think. I think they kind of got away with their competitiveness in the first 3 games, and only one of them a victory. I think they had some good fortune, had some hot spells, obviously, but they won the game yesterday, and that's a sign that they can certainly get this. Well, certainly get it to 6 or 7 games and maybe win the darn thing.
Yeah, and they won it with backup turned starting goalie Brandon Bussey, who wins in place of Freddie Anderson. Anderson did not even dress last night. Rod Brindamore, head coach, explaining he just needed a break. You could tell the sort of fatigue was building up with Anderson. We talked about it yesterday. Not long ago, the school of thought sprung up that you need 2 goaltenders to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's just a very long road, 20-some games, 2 months. And we saw that with Florida winning a couple of years ago. We saw that with Vegas winning and needing a couple of goalies. Hell, there's a lot of recent examples of teams using 2 different starting goaltenders along the postseason road.
And Freddie Anderson, for his entire career, has had these spells where he gets overrun.
Well, and he's also been injury prone too, right?
Yes.
Like it's pretty clear that Freddie Anderson breaks down when overplayed.
Can't be a workhorse.
I thought it was an inspired choice by Brindamore and his staff to go with Bussey. I think they made the absolute right call. But here's the other thing I'll say, Blake. You know, Bussey's a little more erratic, a little more unconventional. I think he gives up a little bit more than Anderson in terms of his aggressiveness.
He can be boom or bust on any given night.
I'm not sure Freddie Anderson is done in this series.
No. They've said that. They've said that no decisions have been made on the starting goalkeeper for Game 5.
Bussey's clearly starting Game 5, I think, after you win and you're in, I think. But I would not be the least bit surprised if they lose Game 5 or if they lose Game 6 if we see Freddie Anderson back in the starter's crease.
I'm not convinced that it's a guarantee that Bussey's starting Game 5, honestly.
Really?
I think it's going to be up to the goaltending coach and say, yep, Freddie looks great now. He's rejuvenated. Not asking him to even go through any sort of routines yesterday gives him – remember, they had 2 days off in between games anyway. So Freddie Anderson's had a long break.
Yeah. The only problem with Anderson in Game 5 is if you lose and it's because of him, that is on you as coaches. Remember, A coach's job is not to win the game. It's to minimize the ways of losing a game. And that would not be minimizing.
But right now, he's won as many games in the Stanley Cup final as Brandon Bussey has. They've both got to win in this series.
No,
so
fair enough. But I'm just not sure. I mean, in Brendan Moore's case, he may not care. It's almost like he's coached for life there. He would get another opportunity, no doubt. If you're the goaltender coach and you come in recommending Anderson, that is plums. Because if it doesn't work out, guess who's taking the fall on that? And a reminder, our friends at the Nation Network have you absolutely covered. The hockey finals are on, and the Nation Network all over it. Every game, every storyline, every big moment, pregame breakdowns, postgame reactions, exclusive interviews. Irf Gaffar, David Pagnotta. Do you know they're going back to Raleigh, too?
Yeah, there's
lucky guys here.
Budget all of a sudden.
Yeah. Expert analysis. All the conversations driving the hockey world. TNN, the Daily Faceoff, are delivering wall-to-wall coverage through the finals. This is hockey's biggest stage, and we're bringing you close to the action each and every day. Like, follow, subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel and socials. Stay connected with the finals and the first puck drop to last. I was going to invite Irf out for a round of golf next week, but I think he might be engaged in a Game 7.
Could be.
Back to the draft, the Canucks are hosting a free draft watch party at Rogers Arena. It was announced yesterday, and I like that they're doing it at their arena. Blake and I used to go to the draft each and every year when it was a centralized draft. And sure enough, the general manager or director of amateur scouting or whoever was making the announcement would go through the perfunctory thank yous of whoever was hosting the draft, would then congratulate the Stanley Cup champion, might say another thing or two based on a legendary figure with the franchise or at the draft, and then would shout out to the team's watch party happening at the Applebee's at the Strip Mall on West 37th.
I think it's usually a Chili's.
It was always an apostrophe S chain restaurant in a strip mall somewhere outside the downtown core of an American city.
Yeah.
Fans can go to Rogers Arena for the first two selections, both of them, of course, in the first round on June 26th. Tickets are free, but you do actually have to go to the Canucks Ticketmaster page and select seats, confirm attendance.
Mitigating factor that night is there is a World Cup soccer match that night as well.
At BC Place Stadium.
So getting in and out of that draft party is going to be an adventure.
That is New Zealand, Belgium. That's the final group stage match here in Vancouver.
Now, it's at 8 p.m. Much of the draft, you should be in the Rogers Arena by
well before
that.
A reminder, Pacific is closed between Canby and Corral, so you're not accessing the arena.
Carroll, not Corral.
Carroll. I was just in
not
Calgary.
Horses and
Sorry, I was just
cows.
in Calgary. Forgive me. We were talking all that Alberta. My Western twang got the best of me. Yeah, Pacific is closed, so you're not accessing Rogers Arena from that usual route for a lot of people who are coming from the south, one of the bridges. And here's the other thing. The tickets are free. And the team is advertising that select food and beverage items, including beer, wine coolers, and hot dogs, $5. I mean, can we actually now believe that the Canucks are turning over a new leaf and truly valuing their customers, seeing them as people with budgets and not just ATM machines? I mean, Johnson and the Sedins, they've talked about new culture. Could that really extend to the business side of the operation with Michael Doyle and Francesco Aquilini and showing love
they
Reducing prices? You're kidding me.
They might be getting shamed into it. I mean, the Canadians are doing 75-cent hot dogs for
You're
God's
still
sakes.
a long way from the Nat and 75-cent
But even
hot dog
FIFA next door, do you
Tuesdays.
see they released the beer prices for a BC place for it's like $9.50 for a beer. Like that's pretty reasonable given that you're getting gouged everywhere else by FIFA.
For a stadium beer, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see. I suspect they'll draw a pretty good crowd. I mean, it's been a long time since the Canucks have had a pick this. It's been 27 years. Let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to catch all the games, to pregame or postgame. You were mere steps from that arena and that stadium. And if you're looking for a venue for your next private party, maybe it's a workplace outing, maybe it's a team party, maybe it's a family reunion, Greta is absolutely your spot. There's a private riser with its own bar. It's surrounded by television, so you can put the game on. But of course, most of your guests are going to be wholly distracted by the bitchin' arcade at Greta. All sorts of games and fun to be had at the arcade. The menu of approachable street food is absolutely delicious. Try the poutine. It serves two. It's so decadent. And to book your event, get more information, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. As mentioned, Frank Corrado is going to join us here. We will spend a lot of time on Mike Babcock and his experience with him. We will spend some time on Mitch Marner, potentially winning the Conn Smythe. In fact, Mike, I forgot to bring that up here. Can we look at playoff scoring leaders for a second, Mike? That Mitch Marner is leading NHL scoring in the postseason by a country mile, 9 points over his teammate Jack Eichel. How about Howden, too, with all the goals? 12 in the regular season. You got 14 goals in the playoffs. It's a really interesting debate in terms of who's the Conn Smythe winner if Carolina lifts the cup. With Vegas, I think it's a fait accompli already.
Yeah.
It is Mitch Marner. And we talk about that with Frank. Like, will Toronto burn itself to the ground if Mitch Marner wins the cup and the Conn Smythe? Plus, we'll talk Brendan Gallagher with Frank, the merits of the Canucks adding him. We'll also talk Brendan Gallagher with Hart Levine, the founder and publisher of PuckPedia. Hart joins us to talk about the NHL offseason at hand. Done with the flat cap, $8.5 million jump in the cap. Does that make PD tradable? We'll talk to Hart about that. We'll talk to him about offer sheets. We'll talk to him about weaponizing cap space. I know a lot of you Canucks fans are hoping they finally get to this. And Hart also has a suggestion for the Canucks in terms of how to go about handling this offseason. Because there's a recent example just last year with the team that thought it was on the front end of a long rebuild. So great info from Hart Levine. PuckPedia is truly one of the fantastic resources available to you fans of the National Hockey League.
Did you see all this hubbub about, you're talking about Conn Smythe winners? Taylor Hall has played his way to the edges of a Hockey Hall of Fame career based on what he's done.
Yeah.
Taylor
I mean,
Hall.
it's a former league MVP, right?
And he might have a Conn Smythe if he finishes
Yeah.
well here.
And he's scored a lot of goals. Later in the show, we'll talk Canada-Bosnia, which is less than 48 hours away. There's a concerning matter with the Canadian side.
And the Bosnian side.
Well, yeah.
Still
I suppose.
concerned.
BC Lions play their CFL season opener Saturday in Regina. We'll look at practice report. Unbelievable BC story at the Nat last night with the BC kid. Just terrific. Put a smile on your face story. Also, Blue Jays get a big win and getting healthier. And we love what Golf Canada has done with the featured groups at the RBC Canadian Open, which starts tomorrow. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. How did you do yesterday?
I did not get what I needed, which was a Logan Stankoven goal, I believe. Wasn't that what I said yesterday? Pretty sure. I oscillated between a couple. Forget where I landed.
I needed a Mitch Marner goal.
No, I was a Mitch Marner goal. That's right.
I think I was too. I was on a future, so
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So it came
We're
up
both
over.
big losers. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
go first.
Yeah.
I'm going Canadian Open at TPC Toronto Osprey Valley. And it was the first time at that course last year. It's a new course. It's designed basically for the purpose of hosting the Canadian Open. And the one thing we learned last year at that track, iron play and putting over driving. It did not prioritize the big drivers. It did not necessarily penalize the wayward drivers. It was about how do you play your irons, and then when you get on those greens, how good are you at putting? And that bodes very well for the favorite Tommy Fleetwood, who, of course, is not the longest hitter, but excels with that mid and short range game. He's plus 1,200 to win. As for dark horses, Blake knows this. I follow a lot of these golf gambling sites and golf analytics sites. They're spitting out Aldrich Potgieter, the big South African, who's typically known for being a big driver. But apparently there's some horses for courses love, according to some of the simulations and the models from the Golf Geek crowd. Plus, he's 80 to 1. This thing I love about betting a golf tournament or the World Cup like we did yesterday, you can have multiple bets on teams and still wind up plus money. So give me Fleetwood at plus 1,200 and give me Potgieter at 80 to 1.
I'm looking at the NBA Finals tonight, and I think the Spurs figured out their magic formula to beating the Knicks, and that is Victor Wembanyama. And allowing him, expecting him to score the bulk of the points. And I'm not just going to go to points, though. I'm going to go to threes because I think they're going to make sure that he doesn't get inside. But he can just pop that three.
Yep.
And his average is about 2.75 threes per game. I'm taking the over. He needs to get to 3 threes at least, and I get plus 150. 3 threes. That's it from Victor Wembanyama.
And while POTUS will not be there at the Garden for Game 4, there is a pregame concert from...
No, halftime concert.
halftime concert from...
Wu-Tang Clan.
And that ain't nothing to fuck with. I suppose it would be wit.
Cleansing MSG.
Wu-Tang Clan
Wu-Tang.
from Staten Island, the often forgotten borough of New York City. That rugged East Coast rap heyday. They built on what all the Forerunners did, and then the 36 Chambers album went off.
Very similar acts, Wu-Tang and Donald J. Trump.
Well, there's a crassness that runs through. And then, of course, all the different members of Wu-Tang Clan went on and had, in some cases, quite successful solo careers, right?
Yes.
Enter the Wu-Tang at halftime at MSG. Tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid, ready to move on to the next puck drop? That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If your team is riding and up 3 goals, at any point, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365. Download the app. See what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Frank Corrado, next.
This is going to be so unreal for Vancouver, Blake. I'm picturing the city absolutely packed, the bars packed, jerseys throughout the town, and watching soccer matches all day long. The city is going to have such a cool vibe during the FIFA World Cup 2026.
Now, I know both of us have traveled to sporting events before for work and for fun. And I know we agree that it is just a different experience when you're in a part of town, in a home that gives you the real flavor of the city. And that's why we prefer staying in homes on Airbnb.
And that's what makes a tournament like this so much fun, though. You are mingling and being surrounded by the energy of a city as opposed to just your friends and the people that you traveled with. And Blake, you know I want to show Vancouver off to all these visitors. My neck of the woods, Kitts Beach, West 4th, even Greektown along Broadway.
All right.
And during something like the FIFA World Cup 2026, where you stay becomes part of the experience. Having a place where everyone can just hang on out after the match, before the match, relive the game, look forward to the game, experience the city together, and make the trip feel more memorable.
And honestly, if you're coming to Vancouver for FIFA World Cup 2026, why not stay somewhere that lets you get more deeply connected to the city, create more memories, grab a coffee on Commercial Drive, catch the fan energy downtown or the Fan Fest. And if somebody invites you to have a huge argument over hockey after the soccer match, well, congratulations, you've officially lived like a Vancouver local.
Hey, and you may even get invited to some backyard barbecues in the right neighborhoods.
You never know. Airbnb, the world is meant to meet.
Sekeres Price from the historic Wall Center. We welcome in former Vancouver Canuck, TSN hockey analyst, grieving Azzurri fan.
Starting to hit home now.
And once upon a time, Mike Babcock player, Frank Corrado, who joins us from his home in suburban Toronto. I couldn't believe Mike Babcock's name popped up in the Oilers coaching search. As soon as I saw it, I thought to myself, oh my God, Frankie and his stories. I was a little hesitant to ask you about it, lest there be any PTSD. But you're telling me you're on the Mike Babcock tour right now. All the shows you do.
You and Commodore.
I don't want to be. It's just people ask me, right? Because I feel like that's what people know me as. It's funny. Like I met John Cooper for the first time this year after a morning skate in Montreal. And after I introduced myself to him, he goes, where do I know that name? Oh, you're the guy that was getting screwed by Babs, weren't you? Like that's what John Cooper knew me as. Anyways, suffice to say that, very familiar with the coach and the individual. And I always preface everything I say about him by saying a couple things. First of all, no one's entitled to anything in the NHL. You have to earn everything. So you should never expect to be given anything. And I never expected to be given anything. The other thing is he is one of the smartest, most detailed X's and O's hockey people on the planet. He might be like the smartest X's and O's detailed hockey guy on the planet. But he is an egomaniac who gets in his way so many other different directions. And that has been to the detriment of Mike Babcock, who talks in the third person. So as far as the Edmonton...
Hold on. Mike Babcock talks in the third person?
Yeah, you got buddies that talk in the third person?
Blake Price cannot believe that Mike Babcock talks in the third person. He really can't.
Just put yourself in this situation, okay? You're having a conversation with Mike and Blake, and you start talking in the third person. Just put yourself in that spot. How's that? Like, how is that for you? Is that normal?
Gosh. It's so weird. It's
weird, right?
So when he's coaching you, he talks in the third person?
Not all the time. No, not all the time. But like he says things in the third person.
Like, give me an example.
Like he says his name, like Mike Babcock is not pissed about this or something. Like he just says his name in the third person. He does it a little bit, more than a little bit. Anyway, so
wow, people
that do that, that's already a red flag. Anyways.
Yeah, and what I love too is that it's coming from pretty stout people like yourself, Johan Franzen, Mike Commodore. Like, that's shrinking violets here. These aren't like perimeter players that just couldn't handle the heat. Like,
well,
I
let's distinguish Frank Corrado
way,
and Mike Commodore. One of these things is not like the other. First,
we're like me and Commie are a little different for sure. But I always explain it to people this way, and people in Vancouver would be very familiar with the John Tortorella experience. I am fortunate enough that I got to play for both of these guys, Torts and Babs, and there's a very distinct difference between the two. Torts can yell and scream, and he can get confrontational, And it can suck sometimes to have to go to the rink and face the music, especially when things aren't going well for you as an individual or for the team. It's not going well. But Torts says it to your face, good or bad. And he's the first guy to come down to the bench and pat you on the back when you do something good. He's the first guy to give you reassurance when he thinks you deserve it or you need it. So as much as, Torts can be prickly, Torts cares about the individual. Babs cares about Babs. And he doesn't want to get confrontational with you. He wants to slither around it somehow so he can put the blame on someone else. And it feels like there's these mind games happening. And so there's a very big difference between both those guys. It's not, they don't want hardened coaches that yell and scream. No. I'll take the coach that yells and screams and tells me like it is every day of the week. I don't want the coach that lies and changes his mind every day or whatever. But that's the main difference between both of those guys.
Let's review for those who aren't familiar. It has been some time now. So Frank, in his own admission, he's mentioned this to us, did not have a great training camp with the Vancouver Canucks. The new Benning regime somehow saw fit to put a young right shot defenseman on waivers. The whole league sat up and went, oh, my goodness, there's a young right shot defenseman on waivers. The Leafs were not a very good team at the time. They plucked you off waivers, your hometown. I can remember talking to you that night, Frank, or the night before when it was all uncertain. And you wind up in a Mike Babcock world, and Mike really didn't want, like, you were a GM. The GM wanted you, the front office wanted you there in Toronto more than Mike Babcock wanted you there in Toronto. And that meant that Mike Babcock was not going to be warm and fuzzy with his new young right shot defenseman.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
He likes to assert his power over the players, over management. He wants to make the first move before someone else makes a move on him. Like, he's obsessed with power and the power dynamic. And so that's something that's obviously gotten him in some trouble. So to pick up on that story, Matt, like I barely played until the trade deadline. I think I played 3 or 4 games until then we made a bunch of trades, played the rest of the year. Didn't play particularly well. Like some really good games, some games that would like to have back, but I was 22 at the time and kind of struggling with your identity when you only play half a season and you practice all the time. But, that summer had a great summer, really good camp, like night and day difference, and actually kind of made the team coming out of camp, which I wasn't truly expecting. Played one game in early November and then didn't play another game until the end of January. And the whole time just sat there and kind of withered away. And the hard part is when you're that young, you're, 22, 23, you see everyone kind of passing you by and you see everyone establishing what they are in the league. Whereas if you were doing that at 27 or 28, you kind of just know what you are at that point. You've had a lot of years and experience and you deal with it differently. So, anyways, it wasn't a great run. I'm very grateful that I got to, play for Toronto and all that stuff, but it was one of those things that didn't have to be dragged out as long as it did. Like we could have cut it short, way, way shorter.
Yeah. Let me, tough question, Frank, but got to ask, like, do you blame him for derailing your NHL career?
You know what? I don't, and I'll tell you why. Not entirely. Because there's stories of guys that persevere through stuff and they say, this is not going to affect me and I'm not going to let this be the determining factor in my career. And as much as I had that mentality, after I left Toronto, I started getting injured a lot. Like I had brutal, broken ankle, high ankle sprain, ACL, quadriceps tendon thing. So then on the back half of leaving that situation, I could never really come out of it. So it's not him. It just sucks because, you look back and you're like, if I just had a fair fighting chance, who knows what could have been at that moment. And, they always talk about defensemen needing 200-300 games to really see what they are. Like, you don't get guaranteed 200 or 300 games.
Yeah.
Like I am walking proof of that, right? So you're very fortunate to get to that point, and I could never get to that point, even though I was on the roster and doing everything that entailed. But
Okay, so let me go ahead. Finish. That's very big of you, Frank. You had an opportunity, right, in Pittsburgh after the Babcock experience, and the injuries didn't allow you to maximize that. Okay, so let me ask you the contemporary question then. The Oilers reached out to ask about Babcock's history after apparently he nailed an interview and convinced some people there that he's the guy. And now we have the NHLPA asking the National Hockey League for information into further the investigation on whatever happened in Columbus with Mike Babcock, where he was asked to look at players' phones.
Which Frank Saravalli says is the tip of the iceberg, that there's far worse stuff. I don't know if you've heard what the worst stuff is. But
he didn't, and to be clear, he didn't ask to go through a player's phone. The reports were that he asked players to share like family photos on their phone as a means of getting to know them. But based on the way he's treated people in his history, Frank, should Babcock coach again in the NHL?
I wouldn't hire him. I wouldn't want anything to do with him. But I think if you're Edmonton, you look at it a little differently. Like Edmonton lives in a division, and I've said this on a few different shows now, but they live in a division where the Anaheim Ducks went out and they hired Joel Quenneville. And then Vegas went out and signed Carter Hart. And they fired John Tortorella, they fired Bruce Cassidy and brought in John Tortorella with a handful of games to go in the regular season. And both those teams are better than Edmonton as we sit here today. So around them, teams are willing to be cutthroat and bold and be, unapologetic, let's call it. And the Oilers and their top players probably look at that and say, well, why do we have to settle for second best? Or why do we have to sit in the passenger seat while the teams around us are going to pass us by being assertive on certain things? So who's the best coach that's available? If they came to the decision that coach was Mike Babcock, which they're not entirely wrong, by the way, he's, like I said, one of the smartest details of the game, X's and O's guys. So they're not entirely wrong. But I think what's happening here is they're trying to emulate being cutthroat and bold, and they're teetering on being reckless. And the reality for Edmonton is they could have all the best lineage of coaches that have ever coached in the NHL combined into one. They don't have good enough goaltending. They don't have a good enough blue line, and they don't have a good enough team. Full stop. So what's the coach going to do for you then?
Strange endorsements, too, from guys like Brian Lawton and Bruce Boudreau. Didn't expect to see that, but they're saying, he's changed, blah, blah, blah.
Well, but Frank makes a good point.
He's not changed at all. He's never apologized for anything. He's never uttered the words, I'm sorry, in his life. No way.
And that's a good point. You can stand in a silo and
repentance.
say that I've changed. But if you haven't apologized,
but
was there ever an apology for the Marner thing that was public? So. No. Yeah. There was, I'm right, you're wrong. Was there ever an apology for the Columbus thing? No. It was, I'll go away quietly so you don't actually investigate what happened.
Right.
Okay. I guess they're going to find out now. They should have done the investigation earlier, by the way.
It shouldn't even be about the players. Johan Franzen details how Mike Babcock would walk through the arena and belittle and demean every single arena worker that he crossed paths with, training staff. Never mind the Mitch Marners of the world.
Training staff. Yeah, training staff gets it pretty good. And the poor Zamboni guy, if the ice is ever, the poor Zamboni guy would get it too. I felt bad for that a couple times.
Crazy.
He should be repentant, certainly, before he gets another opportunity. And while he treated people poorly and disrespectfully, Frank brings up an important distinction. The guy in Anaheim turned a blind eye to criminal activity within his midst in Joel Quenneville. Nobody hears lawyers, but that is of a higher order in terms of crimes when you're in a position of authority, and he has gotten another opportunity here in Anaheim. Okay, let's move on. You brought up Marner, your ex-teammate. What's going to happen to your city if he wins the Cup and is named the Conn Smythe winner? Because there's a very real possibility that Vegas wins the Cup, and if they do, Mitch Marner, for me, is the unanimous Conn Smythe winner.
I'll give you like a little taste of what's going on over here. I was sitting outside my house. We're in a new house, new subdivision, and the site super, this guy Anthony drives by in his white pickup truck, and he sees me sitting out there. I was on the phone, and he stops to have a little stop and chat. He was hacking a dart, and we were just chatting back and forth. And I go, "You've been watching this series, man? It's pretty good." He goes, "No." He goes, "I can't watch it. I can't watch Marner. It kills me." He goes, "I watched it for 9 years in Toronto, and now all of a sudden he's..." So I think what's happening, Matt, to answer your question, is people are almost just like turning a blind eye to it and saying, doesn't exist in my world. I'm not like privy to it. And if I don't watch it, it can't hurt me. That's right. What's going on.
It doesn't happen.
There's no,
if I don't watch it.
No big outcry or anything like that. It's just like in Dumb and Dumber when he goes like this, he's like la 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 la. Like that's what's going on over here.
Now, Mitch Marner did
like that
produce
feature on Twitter where you can just go and set certain words that block them, and so they never appear on your timeline.
If Marner's performance in the playoffs was a Twitter profile, it's been muted here.
So Marner actually had a 22-point reduction in the regular season from his last season with the Maple Leafs, which was, of course, a 100-point year. So it's not this. We're not talking about an Elias Pettersson situation exactly, but it does match the "we can't win with this guy. This guy doesn't know how to compete." All the same, those kind of refrains are similar. Would somebody look at the Elias Pettersson situation and the Marner situation and see any sort of connective tissue in that regard?
I think it's so different because okay, first of all, when Marner was drafted by Toronto, he was branded a winner at that point. He had won OHL championship. He was the MVP. He was the regular season MVP, and then they won the Memorial Cup, and he was Memorial Cup MVP. So he steps into Toronto from day one, already a winner in his career. The issue is everything fell on the four guys in Toronto, whereas in Vegas, that's not the case because Jack Eichel's not scoring right now, but Brett Howden is, or William Karlsson is.
Mark Stone.
And Mark Stone is. And Toronto never had that. And Toronto was kind of vocal about the four guys are going to overcome whatever we can't figure out lower in the lineup, and ultimately it got exposed every time. So that's your main difference between, the Pettersson situation and the Marner situation is that we always knew this is what Mitch Marner was, but there was never this kind of team. There was never this kind of decor, to help just kind of insulate the team. Not that you need to carry Marner, but when everyone else is better in lines 1, 2, and 3, and even 4 for that matter, he didn't have to carry the weight of the world, but he did have to carry it in Toronto, and they could never overcome it. So I do feel like it's a different situation because Pettersson's just trying to get back to call it even par in
basic
the regular
proficiency as a star. Yes.
Look. Mitch Marner has 10 goals in 20 games in this playoffs. He's got 10 goals in 70 games with the Leafs in the playoffs. It was unforgivable to ostracize and lose this player, especially for nothing in unrestricted free agency. But I can also understand a manager looking at it and going, 70 playoff games is not a small sample size, and 10 goals is way short of where we need this guy to be in terms of getting to that
But did they need to make a move on it and
yes,
maximize
they
the
did.
asset before they lost him the way they
100% did. And quite frankly, as Frank, I'm sure you know, like the rest of the country is rooting for Mitch Marner to win the Conn Smythe just to see the reaction in Toronto.
My buddy Anthony, the site super, he won't be watching.
That's right.
He won't know that it happens.
He won't know.
Let's turn
Can
our
you
attention.
imagine Canada losing the soccer match Friday and then Vegas winning the cup on the weekend? Like that would be the worst sports weekend in Toronto ever.
Let's
move on.
Let's
Move
talk
on.
draft here, and let's
talk Gallagher.
Gallagher
Yeah,
first.
well, but let's just keep it NHL here.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you've gotten to know Brendan Gallagher because you call a lot of Montreal Canadiens games there for TSN. And, obviously this is a veteran whose best days are behind him. But his agent's got permission to pursue a trade. He has said, he told Donnie and Dolly this week that, hey, it's on the Canucks' desk. What do you make of Brendan Gallagher as an addition in the rebuild for culture carrying and example and vibes purposes?
I think sometimes those words get thrown around and they can become a little bit hollow. But in the case of Gallagher and what he would bring to a team like Vancouver, it's very real because they're trying to build something here. And they've got new pieces in place behind the bench and in upper management, and there's going to have to be like a transformation as far as how the players walk and carry themselves and the things that they say and the attitude that they have. And Brendan Gallagher is such a great leader and example of all of that stuff. Is he ever going to rip home 30 again? Probably not. But it's about more than that right now because we know the team is going to lose games. Like that's just facing the facts. Can they lose games with dignity while building towards something that is going to matter in the future? And for me, Gallagher, given the way his career has gone, was he a 5th round pick? 2010? And then, makes the NHL essentially having to do everything the hard way and stuck around through all the injuries and still kicking around and provides a good spark and a good energy. It makes too much sense to be a part of the Canucks. And listen, acquisition costs can't be very high. I think if you're looking at this from Vancouver's point of view, it's important because you're trying to build something for the future, and he will buy into that because he will be happy to be serving a purpose. We all do it, like everyone in life. We all want to have a purpose, and I think that gives him a pretty significant one if he was going to play for the Canucks.
But I mean, giving anything to get him is not reading the room here. This is a player that Montreal literally said via their actions, "We have no use for this player."
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So there's no. Do you think
we're going to talk about this with Hart Levine coming up of PuckPedia?
Do you think he's a better influence in the room than JT Miller? Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend.
Night and day difference. And I think Gallagher is one of those guys. The way he talks, it almost makes me believe that the hockey playing portion of his career is just the first portion. There could be more after that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's really in tune with the game.
Yeah, and let me just draw. Brendan Gallagher is to JT Miller what John Cooper is to Mike Babcock. I will leave it at that. Frank, thank you for sharing today. I know those memories can't be easy, so I appreciate you shedding some light on your experience with Babcock. Next week, we'll talk a lot of draft, promise.
All right, boys. Sounds good. See ya.
Harrison Price from the Nation Network studio, the historic Wall Center. And how about this? It's getting exciting. The Nation Network, proud to announce a new partnership with PuckPedia.com in an effort to bring you the most up-to-date salary cap information and tools in one piece. It's the information age, everybody, and we know you want to know as much as you can about each and every player. Fandom has evolved. It's not just watching games, following goals. It's in-depth information, players' underlying metrics, statistics, and, of course, their salary cap details. PuckPedia has been a leader in this field forever, delivering a wealth of information. It includes all the team breakdowns, calculators, agents lists, Ask the Capologist, a very, very popular feature there. We've talked about that in the past. And pretty much anything you want to know about the NHL and its salary cap. And with the draft free agency and the offseason approaching, we look forward to this continued association with PuckPedia. And here's the thing. While PuckPedia's new partnership with the Nation Network is new, we have been relying on and referencing and having our buddy Hart Levine, PuckPedia's founder, on the program for years. He joins us now from his home in Los Angeles. How you doing, fella? Congratulations. Welcome to the family.
Thank you so much. Yes, very, very glad to be with you and excited to hopefully be on more.
I'm sure we asked you this at one point when we had you on, however many years ago it was, Hart, but talk to me about how PuckPedia was born. Like, tell me about how all this came about, because it's become an invaluable resource for NHL fans.
Thanks. Well, as actually way back, kind of had the idea almost 9 years ago now. And just, I was a fan, like most people love hockey, originally from Edmonton, so love hockey. But I like the business side. And when the salary cap came in, was very interested in how it all fit together. And I just found at the time, that was shortly after Cap Geek had closed. There just wasn't a site that sort of met what I was looking for, that had all the information in one place. Like, I had to go one place for salary cap information, somewhere else for injury information, somewhere else to get like advanced stats. And I just thought this should all be in one place. And I also found that my more casual fans, they would want to know what someone make, and I'd refer them to some of the sites out there at the time, and they found them very intimidating and hard to find. They kind of were like giant spreadsheets. And so I thought, well, you know what, I'll make a site that has everything that I want to use and also is sort of inviting to a more casual fan. And hopefully, besides myself and family and friends, other people would come check it out. And here we are all these years later.
Yeah, well, congratulations.
And great branding and a great name, too. You get all of it works.
Yes. Love it. Yeah. Love it. Well, we brought you on to talk more about just the site because you're an expert in the field. Salary cap going up $8.5 million this year, Hart. We are well past the days of flat cap, up to $104 million, and a projected jump of $9.5 million next summer. What are you anticipating? How do you think this is going to affect NHL business this summer?
Well, I think it's a combination of some additional cap space, but also the free agent class, which will, let's just be polite and say it's not the strongest free agent class here. And so I think we'll see some sticker shock when you see what some of these players get, because teams have needs to fill. They want to try and get better, and some of them have money burning a hole in their pocket. So, we've already seen, I think, the McCarron deal, in terms of total dollars, the Charlie Coyle deal in terms of total dollars. People are like, whoa. But, when the cap's going up, it's just like, inflation and the price at the grocery store going up, and that's what you have to pay. And that's kind of what's happening now with the cap jumping up. We have what inflation. And even though we had a pretty decent sized cap jump last year, some of the kind of remnants of being tight for so long are finally unwinding a little bit. Like, we still have a lot of bonus overages from last year, but it's less than the year before, which was less than the year before. We had a bunch of teams using LTIR last year, but it was again less than the year before. All those things contribute to kind of like work through some of that money to free it up out of the system. We also have some of those big old contracts, like Carey Price is finally, not getting paid anymore. And so, yeah, I think what we'll see is teams have some money to spend. It's going to come in the case of contracts to free agents that seem a little high. And I think it's also going to come in the case of players that we didn't think could getting moved, whether it's a big cap hit or just a cap hit that doesn't match the player's value. I think we'll see cap space or cap hits moving a little more freely. And it's actually, for many years, it seemed like if a player had extra term on the contract, that was sort of a negative that hurt their value. I think now we'll see that actually having term on a contract, if the player is sort of close to that value, is actually seen as positive. Like that's worth a lot. Like, look at Larkin. I think, the fact he's not really more than a point per game player. He's a strong player, but the fact that you have him locked into that number for that many more years adds a lot more value than if he was at that same cap number for only one more year.
And his number is now going to be equivalent to a second line player. And, I'll just pick a number out of a hat. Like if a team signed a player to, I don't know, a long-term deal at $11.6 million per season or something like that, and that player had underperformed a little bit, well, no longer do you have to sell him to a team as a first-line player. 11.6, honestly, after these 2 summers bumps, this one and next, I mean, you can absolutely envision an $11.6 million salary on a second line for a contending team.
Who might you be talking about, Blake Price?
I am just being vague. I'm just 11.6 for anybody.
11.6 is such a well-known number that we don't even have to name check him with Hart down in LA.
I had nobody in mind, Hart. But
is that fair, Hart?
Is it fair
let's just say, yeah, he had someone with a very common name. There's other people around with that exact same name.
Yes.
I think we're still at a point where that should be a first-line player. At that number, it needs to be a first-line player. But to your point, I think we're in 2-3 years. That's like a 1/2 potential player, line player for sure.
So it begs the question, Hart, like how tradable do you think Elias Pettersson at full freight is for the Canucks this summer?
Well, certainly imminently more tradable this year than last year or the year before. So I think now, a team. Let's just say this was a year ago. A team is thinking, well, this guy's certainly not worth 11.6. Like, is he worth 8 or is he worth like 8.5? Can we get him to that? Okay, now I think a team can say, well, he's probably not worth 11.6 now, but if he rebounds a little bit, again, in a year or two, with the combination of the cap going up and kind of what that means in relative dollars, I think a team could talk themselves into it. And then I think more importantly, though, is there's just more teams that have the space to take that on, whether they feel like he's worth it or maybe they feel like it's a couple million too high. It's just you have more suitors. Like you have similar, like we talked about with like a house, you have more people with, with a mortgage approved that can go and make an offer on the house that raises the asking price. So I just think that there's more teams available that might be interested that could take a look and see if they, how to make it fit.
We saw this a little bit this year, Hart. Teams just carried space. They didn't fill it. The cap can go up all at once. Doesn't mean you have to fill it. Are we going to see that? Or, as opposed to the flat cap era where it felt like at least half the league had maxed their cap space, we're going to be gone from that potentially, right? Like not everybody's going to choose to spend $120 million.
That's true. Yeah, we have a bigger gap between the ceiling and the floor. And to your point, like as it goes higher, yes, for many teams or some teams, there'll be a place where they're thinking, we're not profitable at this, this higher price, or we're not good enough, and so it's not worth it, right? I think that might be part of it. Like there are teams that maybe can afford it, but they're thinking, we're not good enough, so why spend that much? The owner's thinking, I'll keep that $10 million in my pocket, this year. And if there's less of these contracts that, where there needs to be as much of an asset attached to it, there's not as much of an incentive to sort of like weaponize that space. And I think the other piece, which we should talk about, is in the CBA making the double retention more challenging, that can't happen on the same day. It has to be, a second retention has to be 75 league days apart. Again, it's just another reduction in how you can weaponize that cap space, where before, hey, I have a couple million of space, I might as well be a broker on a deal and turn that into something. Now you can't really do that.
Hart, weaponized cap space is such a loaded phrase in British Columbia, almost as loaded as cap recapture, buddy. And I can remember going through those travails with you all those years ago. But we have a lot of Canucks fans wondering going into this rebuild, because they've left cap space on the table the last 2 years, believe it or not, or for a team that always spent to the cap, if not over and above, for years and years and years. We have a lot of Canucks fans wondering, are they going to be able to weaponize cap space this summer? What says you?
I think they'll be underwhelmed. And I say this because even in the past when cap space was tighter, I thought that teams got off easy on getting rid of some contracts. I look at last year, Carey Price got moved, Shea Weber got moved. Those are completely like kind of zombie contracts, right? With the players not playing. And the return was very light to like get Montreal out of LTIR to move Carey Price and, to move Shea Weber. I thought the prices were light in those days. So I think, now with more cap space, more teams being open to it, I think it's going to further reduce the asset that you get. I think but I think it's not a one size fits all answer. I think where it seems like the return is underwhelming is when a team would like to shed some space, but they don't have to. They're not desperate, and that's where they can go around and see if a team wants to give them, if they'll take a 4th or 5th round pick to take a bad contract. I think though where teams can get a better return is the teams that are more desperate, like where the team has to move someone. Look at like New Jersey likely really needs to move some cap space. Edmonton has some players that likely want to move if they want to make some other big moves. Those are the teams where they seem to end up having to pay more to move the cap space. So I would say in this current environment, and for the Canucks trying to weaponize their space, it's not, every dollar of cap space isn't worth the same. It's more about being opportunistic and finding the teams that are more desperate, and hopefully there's not too much competition to help them with that problem.
Zombie contracts. I've never heard that.
That's
term.
a great term.
It's a great,
it's absolutely
term.
fantastic.
What about trades in general? Never mind the overpriced guy that theoretically people have room for. Just there's not been a lot of wheeling and dealing at deadlines, even at summer. Like we've been underwhelmed for a long time. Hart. Does the presence of cap space lubricate those wheels just a little bit and give fans what they want, which is some wheeling and dealing?
I hope so. I mean, that it all signs point to that. The combination of the cap space and then the very weak free agent market. You would think that would lead to some more trades. It just depends. You need a match. You need a someone that, whether it's a buyer and a seller or two teams that have kind of opposite needs to match. And you hear a lot of trade talk. It seems like there's some big names bandied about, because it's not just the volume of trades. It's like the quality of the trade, right? Like the names in the trade that gets people interested. And it seems like the conditions are right for that. So we'll have to see. I think, one place that probably something you want to ask me about is offer sheets. And I think that's where it kind of connects with the trade market. Like there's always talk, is there going to be another offer sheet? I look at the Keandre Miller trade last year is, it's not technically an offer sheet, but it was an offer sheet. There was an offer sheet agreed to, ready to go. And the call came into New York. Hey, here's the offer sheet that we're going to process. Do you want to make a trade instead? And so, technically for official record, that's not an offer sheet, but to me, that's a trade that is basically an offer sheet. I think we'll see some of those. I think there's some situations where teams are tight. There's some players that likely are open to moving teams, or at least just getting paid regardless of which team pays them. And I think, maybe we don't see an actual offer sheet, but we could see some trade action that's spurred on by an offer sheet that's basically agreed to.
What about the young man from North Vancouver who plays for the Chicago Blackhawks? He'd be an interesting offer sheet. Do you think there's any chance that someone tries their luck at Connor Bedard?
No. Sorry, because that's the combination where there's really no point. You've got a team with lots of cap space, a team that wants a player that can match. And from the player standpoint, he's thinking, I could probably get what I want from Chicago. They're going to match anyway. So do I need like that tension and that awkwardness if I sign an offer sheet with someone else? So I guess the famous last words. I was on a Edmonton show a couple of years ago saying there's no risk of an offer sheet for Broberg and Holloway. So I guess like this could blow up in my face too. But I think that's very unlikely when you have a situation where the team is going to match. The player knows that's the most likely outcome, and he can get his money from that team. Why go through that, that stress of an offer sheet?
Well, fair enough. But we've had some very smart Canucks fans say to us, okay, you may not have a successful offer sheet, but how about just offering him one that marches him into unrestricted free agency? I think the term would be 4 or 5. I forget what the exact term would be, but the notion of getting Chicago to commit to him and him to commit to Chicago for 4 years, and then he's unrestricted, and then maybe he comes home then.
Feathering the nest.
What thinks you?
But, well, again, why would he do that? Like, if he only wants a 4-year deal, and he tells Chicago, I only want a 4-year deal, they have no choice but to give it to him, right? So why would he sign that with Vancouver and go through that awkwardness in the dressing room and in the market? Again, to me, an offer sheet comes from when a team doesn't have the space, or a player that wants to get paid and is fine with, whether he goes or stays as long as he gets paid. And I just don't think that those line up for Bedard in Chicago. I'm sorry for all the emails you're going to get after I say that.
No, that's okay. No, we're accustomed to it.
The CBA trimming down from 8 to 7 years is going to reduce term anyway, but we've already seen some of these superstars reducing term, really wanting to be pragmatic, walk through their career. I don't think they're as worried about injuries. Not that they're not worried about injuries, but I just don't think it manifests in contracts anymore, because far more important than the safety of the millions is their happiness in the situation, it seems, and the ability to manipulate the situation and sign the next deal and ride inflation a little bit more, not get stuck with. Is that all going to continue here, or do you think with the improved cap space that they just want to get that security now they can get fat and happy on a big per year cap hit?
No, I think like the top players, we will see them going shorter and shorter. To your point, like they can make a lot more money over their career if they go 2, 3, 4, 5-year deals instead of 7-year deals. And to your point about injury, like they can get insurance too, right? So it's not like that's like a complete risk. So yeah, the high end players, I would expect them to go shorter, like the kind of Austin Matthews model, right? Where he wasn't doing 1 or 2 year deals, but he wasn't going like the 7, 8 year deals, like Draisaitl and McDavid did in their second contract. I think the players like we've seen that are still going to be open to the long term deals are ones that haven't quite hit yet, right? Or maybe we're a little slower development. Like look at Doan in Buffalo, right? Like the perfect time for him to. In hindsight, now at the end of the season, he probably wishes he hadn't signed it, but at the time, he hadn't established himself really, right? We didn't know he was going to have that breakout. That's the kind of player. Look at Carolina with a Jackson Blake, right? And even a Stankoven, signing them to those long-term deals before they'd really popped. And from the team, that's a smart bet to make, especially on young players, because if it doesn't work out, either teams are willing to take them on as a reclamation project, or if they're not yet 26, you can buy them out for 1/3. So it's very low risk, I think, for a team to pick those guys and sign them long term. But for the player, if you haven't really popped and you're a little bit of a later bloomer, you're not like that high end top couple overall pick, I think it makes sense. Like, hey, here's a bunch of money in my pocket. I can still get another contract, around 30 years old. Those are the players I think that take the long-term deals. But I think the high-end top guys, I think we will see a trend of more of them taking shorter deals than we've seen in the past.
Hart, we have got to talk about Brendan Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens. Lives here in Tsawwassen, one-time great Vancouver Giant, personable, affable young man, culture carrier, on his way out in Montreal with a 6-team no-trade list, 1 year left on the deal. 6.5 cap hit, but only $4 million in actual money left on the Brendan Gallagher contract. We asked a poll question a week or so ago, should the Canucks pay an asset to acquire Brendan Gallagher? And we had a lot of our audience go crazy. What are you talking about paying an asset? Montreal should be paying us an asset to take the contract off their hands. He seems like a really interesting case study here in terms of the new financial realities of the National Hockey League and whether contracts like this are still going to have to be attached to an asset to get rid of, or if they're actually going to get an asset in return. How do you size up the position the Habs are in with Gallagher and what it's going to take to get him off the books or to acquire him if you're a club like the Canucks?
I would be shocked if they got an asset for moving him. Again, similar, like he's not living up. He has value. He's not like a league minimum player. Like if he was a UFA today, he'd probably get $1.5 million, $2 million, right? Like he's got some value. He's got the intangibles that teams want, but certainly well below his contract. So I just would be shocked if he return an asset. I think they would have to add an asset, but I don't think it's that premium of an asset. Like we talked about, there are teams with cap space. If Vancouver is the only team that is interested, then it's really just a negotiation and who blinks first. If Vancouver really wants him, okay, well then you're not going to get an asset or as big of an asset. But if Vancouver is kind of fine either way, but there's not much of a market for him, I could see Montreal having to attach an asset, and just gut feel would be you're talking like a 3rd or 4th round pick to go with him, or maybe like a B or C prospect, right? To me, that's what the kind of deal would look like for Gallagher. It's him plus like a B/C prospect, or a kind of 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th round pick. But a lot of it will depend on, are there other teams that see some value in him, or do teams see him only as what asset can we get to sort of like just take him, and they don't see the on ice value or the kind of locker room value? It seems like Vancouver would see the most value in him just from the fit and where they are in their cycle. But again, that comes down to like, do they act a little too interested, and Montreal, captures or pounces on that, and they don't get the best deal for Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's there. He's a nice to have, but he's not a need to have. The Canucks have to be very careful.
Yeah.
But negotiation.
Hey, if they want to give up a 3rd round pick to take him, I'm all for that. Astonished is probably too strong a word, Hart, because we recognize last year's free agent class, unrestricted free agent class, wasn't exactly of quality. Nevertheless, Blake and I were a little bit surprised that NHL GM showed the discipline that they showed last year in unrestricted free agency. Like, we thought Pius Suter would get a lot more money and more term than what he wound up getting from St. Louis to leave Vancouver. What do you think awaits him? You've touched on this a little bit, but what do you think awaits this summer with free agency, and whether GMs and owners are able to show discipline in terms of the money and term they're handing out?
I think, we're not going to see like a contract other than maybe Alex Tuch. Like, we're not going to see a $10 million player because there's just no one like that available. But I think we're going to see players that your gut reaction is, oh, that's a 3 times 2 or 3, and then we're like, whoa, he's getting 5 times 5. Like, I look at like a Bobby McMahon. I think there's going to be some sticker shock on the total dollars that he gets. Anthony Mantha, I think, is going to get a off one good season, basically, right? A really good season, but he's got a long track record of not doing
He's
that.
just always a free agent, isn't he? Year after year, Anthony Mantha is a free agent. Yeah.
Mason Marchment, I think, is another guy we're going to say, wow, that's a lot of money for him. Because, again, there's players that, they're kind of in that middle roster spot, and teams need those players. So there's not going to be players getting like 10 million plus that we're shocked at, but there's going to be players getting more term and a couple million more in that kind of $3 to $7 million range than we would have expected, or that our gut, after being trained for all these years of a flat cap, our gut will feel like, whoa, that's way too much. I think those are the kind of guys that we'll see in that range. And then the other one is Radish. Like, it just takes one team to think that this last season is who he is versus, if everyone says, well, he's maybe somewhere in between this last season versus the year before, that would bring his value down. But if just based on his last season, like, that's a 10 million plus defenseman. And that's a really fascinating case to see. Like, to me, he's very similar. And Dom at The Athletic wrote a good piece, how he's similar to Brandon Montour, that had a really good season, offensive season, after being pretty good. And then, Seattle paid him, and he kind of regressed to where you probably would have expected, somewhere in between. Let's see, what teams do with Radish.
Who do you think gets more, Rasmus Andersson or Radish?
Radish.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But Rasmus Andersson, I think, is also unique because I think that's probably been worked out for a while. But Vegas has some issues with, Pietrangelo needs to be placed on LTIR and some timing stuff. I feel like, he's not necessarily a true free agent. I feel like that one's probably close to done. But I would still say that Radish is going to get more, definitely more cap hit for sure. It's possible, though, Radish, maybe he has to end up taking like a really short-term deal to kind of prove it again. But even if he does that, I think that would be a higher cap hit than Anderson. Yeah.
Good to know, because I was sitting here going, longer track record with Anderson and potentially coming off a Stanley Cup championship. But
I hadn't taken a deep dive into Mason Marchment. I think Mason Marchment, you're right, is going to get paid. His second half of the season was spectacular, and people absolutely love his size, obviously.
And if the Canucks are the ones signing any of these Marchment, Radish, McMahon, this market will
lose their claim.
Yeah, they need to look at what Pittsburgh did last year. That's what Vancouver should do. Signing 1-year deals, maybe 2-year deals for guys that kind of need another shot where they're going to get a spot higher in the lineup. Like, they should be the team that signs Anthony Mantha to a 1-year deal last year. And then, unlike Pittsburgh, who they ended up being way better, and I'm sure their plan was to trade him at the deadline, but they couldn't because of how well they're doing. Vancouver should be signing those deals and then flipping them at the deadline for more assets. Those are the types of players Vancouver should be signing.
Awesome stuff. You make us smarter each and every time you come on, Hart. Can't thank you enough for the insights here today. And once again, welcome to the Nation Network family. Glad to have you aboard, bud.
Thanks, Hart.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee. Big game downtown. Make Sherton Vancouver Wall Center your home base for game night and beyond. Walk to the action. Sleep like a champ. Plan your stay. Wallcenter.com. We are less than 48 hours away from Canada, Bosnia, at the Toronto Stadium, the opening game of our first home soil World Cup. History to be made.
I'm nervous.
Canada, we have a problem. Ishmael Kone missed training today. He was spotted by One Soccer's Christian Jack leaving the training grounds by vehicle. Now, this is very bizarre because the midfielder trained fully yesterday and even did post-training media. So there was no suspected injury or anything here. Canada Soccer called it an undisclosed absence and had no further comment. The Sassuolo man in Italy's Serie A is a no-doubt starter for Canada in that midfield. And if he can't go, the options are LAFC's Mathieu Chouanier or Nathan Saliba of Anderlecht in the Belgian league. What kind of a downgrade would this be for Canada if Kone can't go?
Yeah, dark horse candidates would be Nico Segur, who has played the odd game as midfield for Canada.
From Burnaby.
And then maybe Jonathan Osorio, but I think they just really want to get 25 minutes per game out of Osorio. I don't think they want to start him at his age. So, yeah, I mean, it's a downgrade. And, I didn't watch a lot of Sassuolo. I did watch a lot of Juventus this year to keep an eye on Jonathan David, but Kone's game is not a super sexy game. Even when he's playing well, he's not necessarily a noticeable player. He's not a destroying midfielder. He's not like an Andres Kubas, but he's sort of that first link, gives it to Eustachio, who then distributes to the scorers. But he can be an important link. He can get further up the field. He is the best option. Like he is without a doubt, the second best midfielder. So alongside Eustachio, they're going to miss him if they can't use him. I'm purely speculating based on, again, his training yesterday and his speaking to the media yesterday and not going straight to treatment or anything.
That's it.
Like, I wonder if it's a personal issue maybe. Maybe it's just like a non-injury related, but a personal issue that he had to take the day off. It would have to have been pretty serious to miss training 2 days before your World Cup opener. But
one would think.
So hopefully everything's okay with him and his family. But
Here.
I don't know.
I don't. Real surprise. And I mean, if Christian Jack doesn't see him get in the car, like it's even bigger mystery, right? On the flip side, Bosnia's biggest problem appears to be solved. Their captain and star striker, Edin Dzeko, returned to training today after being missing for weeks. Like literally not seen publicly for weeks as the team centralized and set off to Canada on their World Cup journey. He last played May 17th, hasn't played more than 25 minutes since the March win versus Italy, which punched their ticket to the...
He started in that game.
Yeah, to the World Cup. The 40-year-old center forward is by far Bosnia's most accomplished player. He won titles at Man City in the EPL and at Wolfsburg. He's played at Roma, Inter Milan, Fenerbahce. He scored at the 2014 World Cup in Russia. In fact, Blake, he's got a streak going of scoring for his country in 20 consecutive years since he was a 20-year-old on the national team. And we should say, Bosnia is no minnow. I've asked a couple of our soccer guests here over the last couple of weeks. Look, Qatar is absolutely the game that Canada should win. Switzerland is the game that is going to be tough to win. The Swiss are higher ranked, typically play a low event style, which keeps scores down, plays to their strengths. But the Bosnia match is kind of the wild card of the three.
It's very much an equal, I think. I think you have to look at it like that. And so if you're playing somebody that is in your vicinity, that can go any manner of directions. So
Yeah, and I know they were a late qualifier, but again, it's out of UEFA. This is by no means a minnow in an expanded 48-team World Cup. They beat Romania twice. They beat Wales. They beat Italy en route to qualification. In fact, if not for a late goal allowed to Austria, Bosnia would have qualified through the regular channels and not needed that UEFA last chance playoff tournament to get in. So this is the one I think that, look, no worse than a draw for Canada on Friday.
the good news, there is some good news on the injury front. Alphonso Davies kicked the soccer ball today. Well,
Yeah.
two bits of
I still don't think there's
two
any
bits of good
chance
news.
he's playing Friday.
both he and Ralph Priso ran with the team. First time that they've done that. First time Davies has done that since they got together. But Davies was kicking the ball, taking shots on net the first time that he's done that. Don't think he's used it at all in the opener.
Yep.
But I think they might be eyeing Qatar for a few minutes.
And by tomorrow, we will get the final verdict on Ralph Priso and whether or not he will be the Whitecaps man, whether or not he will be the last-second replacement for the injured Moise Bombito. And yesterday, we talked about how Vancouver is really showing out and dressing the set here around town with the Science World soccer ball livery and, of course, BC Place and how beautiful it all looks, especially against the setting sun and the ocean and the mountains. Well, our friends down the I-5, Seattle has entered the chat. Look what the Emerald City is doing with a drone scoreboard set against the night sky by the Space Needle. Well done, Seattle. That looks magnificent.
They'll do it for the 6 game days that Seattle's actually hosting for. They'll have that scoreboard up. Pretty cool.
That is super cool.
I think we could do that.
We should do that. We should just steal their idea.
Why not?
Uh-huh.
Drone shows aren't their idea.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have any IP on drone shows. It's not proprietary.
If you put that up against the North Shore Mountains where everybody could see, pretty cool.
Why not right in the middle of English Bay?
It's just then
Seen
people are looking
far
at it
and
from the
wide.
west side on both sides. You want to put it where people are generally
No, but-
looking one direction.
People look out at the ocean.
But the people on the west side, they're looking the other way.
Everybody looks out at the ocean, Blake.
From where we are now, yes.
Well, from where you live, from where I live, from where everybody
No,
lives.
but from where you live, if you put it in English Bay, you'd be looking at the wrong direction. You'd be backwards. It'd be 6-6 instead of 9-9.
Oh, you think I'm that far west? No.
Well, it depends where you put the
I'm in
drones.
hard scrabble North Kits,
Oh,
Blake.
hard scrabble.
I'm not in West Point Gray or anything like that, brah.
Okay.
BC Lions' first practice of game week yesterday, and they are expecting a terrific crowd. 26,000 plus in Regina Saturday night in the opener for the Lions versus the Rough Riders, and of course a rematch of last year's West Division final in the same stadium. Veteran defensive back Gary Peters was limited at practice but is expected to start this week. Fellow defensive back Deontay Williams also limited. Same with the big Belgian defensive lineman Thibaut Debaye. CFL Week 2 starts tomorrow with Hamilton in Winnipeg. Then you got Toronto and Montreal Friday. Lions and Riders rounded out on Saturday. I've seen some quibbling about why are they giving 3 teams buys in these early weeks and going with 3 games as opposed to going 4 games
It's weird.
and just the one
Yeah.
buy. Anyways,
Maybe just to make it a little bit more fair that one team isn't having to I don't know. Do you think it'll come to the point where Gary Peters just participates in practice via FaceTime?
so honestly, we went through this all of last year with Peters, who was almost always limited at the beginning of a practice week. It's just load management for an older, very important member of that defensive secondary.
I think he should be on the exercise bike at home on FaceTime.
Now, he is
going,
coming
"I'm
off
doing
him.
this,
Okay, the one distinction I'll point out is he did have a knee procedure over the offseason. He didn't participate much at training camp. So until we see him on the field playing the regular amount of reps that he would play, I think we got to leave open the possibility that maybe Gary Peters can't participate at the same level that he has in the past. He's been an extraordinary player for the Lions and previous to that in his CFL career.
I'm just going to update the Kone file.
Oh.
Fever. Back to the hotel to rest.
Don't want him around the players.
Yes.
Lest he be contagious.
That makes sense. I'm surprised they wouldn't have just
Who's
said that
the
from
reporting there?
That's Christian Jack again.
Okay.
But I don't know why Canada Soccer wouldn't have just said
Why
from the
would you say
get-go
that?
he's ill.
Baseball and a fantastic BC story for a BC boy at historic Nat Bailey Stadium last night, celebrating 75 years. The Vancouver Canadians beat the Everett Aqua Sox 10-1 before a sellout crowd on a Tuesday. Maybe 75-cent hot dog night had something to do with that. I'm just speculating. The catalyst for the big win, Victoria's Sam Shaw. In his first game at the Nats since returning from the injured list on the weekend, the center fielder hit his first home run at the high A level in his first at-bat in the first inning. And take a look at this trot coming out of the batter's box. He knew it from the jump. Attaboy, Sam. We've had Sam on the show a couple of times when he was drafted a few years back, coming out of high school to the Blue Jays, then when he got promoted to the C's late last season. Here's Tyler Zickel on the call for Bally Sports and the Canadians Radio Network.
Luke Stevenson, the catcher, flashes a sign, and the 2-1 swung on and high in the air to right. Back goes Anthony D'Onofrio to the track, to the wall, and gone. Welcome back, Sam Shaw. The BC kid giving the Canadians a 3-0 lead here in the first.
Good point to the outfield stands.
Love it. And again, Nat Bailey Stadium, a very difficult park to hit home runs, although don't tell that to our new friend Dub Gleed. We had Dub on the show a couple weeks ago. A 416-foot home run last night from Dub. I mean, that's out of every ballpark.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Attaboy. He's at it again tonight. North Vancouver's Adam Meyer is on the mound for the Aqua Sox. Another great BC story from a BC boy at the Nat last month. He started and pitched 5 scoreless innings, met his dad, had a whole bunch of friends and ex-teammates in the stands. He'll face Danny Thompson Jr. for the C's. Thompson Jr., 62 strikeouts in 42 innings this year. Get your ticket, 604-872-5232. Or Canadians baseball.
And the weather looks great the rest of the week,
sure does.
so you should have fun out there.
And I'm telling you, the Saturday, Sunday games here before school lets out are getting most popular. If you do plan on going to some of these 1 p.m. Saturday, Sunday starts, you want to get on that early. They've had a Sunday sellout already this year. It's a fact of life here in Vancouver in the spring and summer. It is the place that Vancouverites want to be when the sun is out. Nat Bailey Stadium, some call it the best patio in the city. Mm-hmm. So check it on out. Blue Jays walk it off after Louis Varland with a blown save in the 9th. Who authorized that? He's supposed to be unhittable. He's allowed just 2 earned runs this season.
I love it when both teams score in the 9th inning. Chaos.
Yeah. And once again, the hero for the Jays is catcher Brandon Valenzuela, who singles home the game-winning run. I was going to call him backup catcher Brandon Valenzuela, but I think he may have upped his lot in life over these last 2 months with Alejandro Kirk on the injured list. Now, Kirk is expected back this weekend. It probably spells the end of Tyler Heineman as backup catcher for the Jays. Heineman was outstanding last year in a backup role, but he's had his struggles this year. And he's not just been bypassed. I mean, Valenzuela may well be vying with Kirk for playing time behind the plate. Like, you can't sit this guy down right now, not just with the way he's hitting, but what he gives you on the defensive end. And that could be a huge boost to the Jays' fortunes because, a little bit more rest for Kirk. I know you don't love DHing catchers because if you have an injury, you've got to put them behind the plate and you lose the DH. But boy, spoils, riches for the Jays behind the dish.
But they're also getting a huge contribution now from Jesus Sanchez, who
Who's a good player.
Continues to rip the cover off the ball. Slugging percentage is the best on the team.
Yeah.
He's hitting .296. He's already halfway basically to his RBI career high.
Yep.
And we are early into June. Remember, he missed a bunch of games at the start too. So
Yeah. Now, he doesn't hit lefties as well. He has been viewed as more of a platoon guy in his 2 major league stops to date. The other thing that I see being talked about, discussed in Blue Jay circles, is should George Springer have a regular spot in the lineup these days? It's been a bit of a struggle for Springer. Of course, had the magnificent year last year. But Springer, a right-handed hitter who's pretty much just a DH now. You have all these lefty bats and Sanchez, Pinango, Nathan Lukes. When you're facing right-handers, do you want both Sanchez and Pinango in the lineup, particularly given the struggles of Vladdy Guerrero to hit for power this year?
oh my God.
I think that's something that Schneider is going to have to go into now. And look, that'll be sensitive. Springer's a proud veteran and all that. But I do think you have to look at scenarios where George plays against left-handers and he plays against the occasional right-hander. But I want Sanchez and Pinango's bat in the lineup day after day, if not Lucas as well.
Vladdy's having the weirdest year.
So weird.
Like
so
weird.
weird.
He's hit 300 for the most part for all season long. How do you hit 300
And not
have any power at your size?
well,
like,
and
how?
he's been a slow starter in the past. And of course, the ball doesn't travel as well typically on colder weather days in outdoor ballparks in April and May.
But I don't even think he's. I don't
I mean,
even think he's
we're
getting
10 days
robbed.
into June now.
But he's not getting robbed at the warning track either.
No. It's not there. Dylan C strikes out 11 in his return from the IL.
Yeah.
Max Scherzer recalled to start today. And to make roster room, the Jays demoted the Canadian lefty Adam Macko, who I learned this weekend is a Vancouver resident. Met a girl here during his time with the Seas and just decided, all right, I'll relocate from one province over in Alberta. Now, Macko has pitched very well in his first big league taste. He's allowed just 2 runs in 12 innings, but he still has options left. He did not require waivers, so he's easier to send down than some of the other pitchers. John Schneider saying, quote, he was a pro about it. He understands that he'll most likely be back here at some point. Yes, please. Well done, Adam Macko. We're going to get Adam on the show here in a little while. Fantastic job by Golf Canada in setting the featured groups for the RBC Canadian Open, which begins tomorrow at TPC Toronto, Osprey Valley. Second straight year at this new track. Talked about it in Bet365. You got Justin Rose, PGA champion Aaron Rai, and Colin Morikawa, 2 Englishmen in a trio of major champions. You've got itty-bitty Tommy Fleetwood, big tall Sahith Theegala, and Corey Connors in another featured group. I love this. I love that they gave him the shine. The Canadian rookie Sudarshan Yalamaraju. He gets to play with Victor Hovland and Matthew Fitzpatrick in what I'm sure is his first ever featured group. And in his hometown, no less. I think there'll be tons of support for Yalamaraju around the grounds. Abbotsford's Nick Taylor, of course, broke the 69-year drought of Canadian champions at the Canadian Open a few years ago with that eagle putt. He'll play with Brooks Koepka and defending champion Ryan Fox. It could be a whole lot of fun, the banter between Shane Lowry and Scotsman Robert McIntyre. That might be your R-rated group in terms of language. Matthew's brother, Alex Fitzpatrick, also playing in that group. He's been scorching since winning his tour card in that Zurich team event with his brother. And then they've put together an all-Canadian group. Mike Weir, Adam Hadwin, and Mackenzie Hughes. Very well done.
That's called the struggling Canadian group. Everybody who's looking to find their game in one
Maybe
stop.
they will inspire each other.
Maybe.
Our poll question results from yesterday. If Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg go first and second overall, who do you want the Canucks to draft number 3? The options here were Malhotra, Reed, Carroll's other. Winner is?
I think people have gone to Malhotra pretty solidly.
Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Percentage?
52.
57. 29% said Chase Reed, 9% Carson Carroll's up in PG, and 5% voted other. Graham says Caleb, if only because it gives the Canucks fans the built-in excuse for the future when they still suck.
The built-in excuse being that, he was ruined by his dad or something like that? I don't know.
Chris, Carson Carroll is the guy I would take at number 3, but I wouldn't be upset with Caleb in this scenario. In my opinion, it's between those two. Yeah, Carroll's getting a lot of love. PG's weighing in here. Malcolm says, Verhoff, you take a player with that upside every time. And some right-in love for Viggo Bjork, the brother of Canucks prospect Wilson Bjork, who was drafted last year. I do not have an error or omission, so thank you for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. Programming note, we've mentioned this, Friday, our show will be live after the Canada-Bosnia match. We just couldn't imagine doing a show with a noon kickoff up against Canada-Bosnia, so we will be live right thereafter. Our old friend Vanni Sartini, ex-Whitecaps coach, current Halifax Wanderers head coach, is going to join us to break it all down. Vanni joined us during the Qatar World Cup 4 years ago and was indispensable and explaining to us everything that was going on the pitch, how Canada was playing, why they were playing that way. So we'll get Vanni to break it all down for us. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.